My husband is planning another wife, but I overheard their secret plan at midnight. By morning, everything had changed. I never believed secrets could breathe. But that night, at exactly 12:07 a.m., our house exhaled one. I was not supposed to be awake. I was not supposed to hear anything. And I was definitely not supposed to learn that my own husband was planning to replace me. My name is Sarah Williams, and this is my real story. I was lying on my side, staring at the ceiling fan, counting the clicks it made every time it turned. My husband, Mark, was asleep beside me. At least, that's what I thought. The room smelled like his aftershave and the lavender lotion I used before bed. Everything felt normal, too normal. Then I heard my phone buzz. Not mine. His. Once. Then silence. Mark didn't move, but something in my chest tightened. Mark never left his phone on vibration. Never. He said the sound annoyed him. I slowly turned my head. The screen lit up again. This time, I saw the name. Linda. My stomach dropped. Linda was his work friend, the one he laughed about too loudly, the one who needed advice at night, the one whose name I had learned not to mention if I wanted peace. I reached for water on my nightstand, pretending I wasn't awake. That's when Mark carefully slid out of bed. Carefully. Like someone who didn't want to wake the woman he was lying to. I held my breath. He picked up his phone, glanced at me, and froze. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. After a long second, he relaxed. He thought I was asleep. He slipped on his slippers and walked out of the bedroom. That should have been the end of it. But something pushed me up. Call it instinct. Call it fear. Call it the voice of a woman who had ignored too many signs. I followed him. Barefoot, silent. The hallway light was off, but the kitchen light was on. I stopped near the wall and listened. Mark's voice was low. Yeah, she's asleep. My hands shook. Another voice came through the phone, a woman's voice, soft, confident. Linda. Are you sure? She asked. I wouldn't be talking if I wasn't, Mark replied. My heart started pounding so loudly, I thought they could hear it. Linda laughed. Good, because I can't keep hiding forever. Mark sighed. I know, that's why I told you it's time. Time for what? Linda's voice dropped. You promised me, Mark. You said I wouldn't just be some secret. He hesitated. Then he said the words that cracked my life in half. I'm planning another wife. I pressed my hand over my mouth. Another wife. Not divorce. Not separation. Another wife. Linda laughed again, excited. Finally, when? Soon, Mark said. I just need to handle Sarah first. My name. Hearing my own name from his mouth, like that felt like ice poured down my spine. Handle how? Linda asked. Mark was quiet for a moment. Then he said, she trusts me, she always has. I felt dizzy. Linda said, what about the house, the money? Mark chuckled. I've already thought about it. By the time she figures anything out, it'll be too late. Too late for what? I leaned closer. Linda lowered her voice. And the baby. My knees almost gave out. What baby? Mark asked. Linda paused. You didn't tell her yet, did you? Silence. Then Mark said softly, no, and I don't plan to. My chest burned. I was pregnant. And he knew. Linda laughed again, sharper this time. Good, less mess. I couldn't breathe. Mark said, once everything is set, you'll move in. She won't fight. Sarah hates conflict. That part was true. Or at least, it used to be. Linda said, midnight meetings are risky. Mark replied, she's asleep, she always is. I stepped back quietly, my legs shaking, my world collapsing. Every laugh we shared. Every promise. Every prayer we said together. All lies. I returned to the bedroom, slid under the covers, and stared at the wall while my heart screamed. Mark came back a few minutes later, smelling like lies and confidence. He slipped into bed and wrapped his arm around me. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I planned. By morning, everything had changed. At 6:00 a.m., I got up and made breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee. Mark looked surprised. "You're up early," he said. I smiled. "I couldn't sleep," I replied. He kissed my cheek. I didn't wipe it off. Not yet. While he ate, I watched him like a stranger. The way he chewed. The way he avoided my eyes. The way he checked his phone under the table. Linda texted him. I saw it. After breakfast, I told him I had a doctor's appointment. He stiffened. "Oh," he said, "already?" "Yes," I replied calmly. "About the baby." He froze. "I thought you didn't know yet," he said quickly. I smiled again. "I know everything," I thought. But out loud, I said, "I just want to be careful." He nodded, relieved. That relief hurt more than anger. When he left for work, I locked the door and sat on the floor. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because if I didn't laugh, I would break. I wiped my tears, stood up, and opened my laptop. If Mark thought I was asleep, he was wrong. If he thought I was weak, he was wrong. If he thought he was planning alone, he was wrong. By the time the sun fully rose, I had already made my first move. And he had no idea what was coming next. I woke up to the sun, slicing through the blinds like a spotlight on my secret. Mark was already gone, probably thinking he had a smooth, clean morning. He had no idea that by the time he returned, his world would feel upside down. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee steaming in my hands, and opened a blank email. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Every word I typed had to sting just right. Every move had to make him realize that the Sarah he knew was gone, the one who trusted him blindly. I typed slowly. "Hi, Mark. I think we need to talk about our finances, and Linda." I paused, rereading it. Simple, direct, loaded. Then I attached a few screenshots I had snapped from last night. The texts, the call logs, everything. I hit send. The little whoosh of the outgoing message felt like a gunshot in my chest, but I didn't flinch. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Mark, you sent what?" I smiled. "Sarah, everything." The phone was quiet after that. I could almost hear him packing. I imagined him running through our house, looking for me for answers. But I wasn't scared. Not anymore. Instead, I made a list. A list of everything he had lied about, everything he had planned, and everything I needed to do to make sure he never underestimated me again. Step 1, control the information. Step 2, protect the baby. Step 3, make him sweat. Step 4, Step 4 was deliciously cruel. I decided I needed allies. Not friends. He didn't deserve loyal ones. I needed people who could help me turn his plan inside out. First, I called my sister, Emily. "Emily," I whispered, "I need you now." By the time Emily arrived, I had the house quiet, Mark gone for work, and a plan forming in my mind like a storm. "Sarah," Emily asked. Looking concerned, "What's wrong?" I handed her my laptop, showing her the texts. Emily gasped. "Oh my God, he's really planning to." I nodded. "Yes, and he thinks I'm clueless." Her eyes went wide, and I felt a thrill run through me. For the first time in months, I felt alive, dangerous, unstoppable. "We need to get ahead of him," I said. "And we need proof, concrete proof, something he can't explain away." Emily nodded. "Okay, I'm in. But Sarah, you have to be careful. He's not just planning another wife, he's manipulating everything." I smiled. "That's why it'll be fun." By mid-morning, we had already mapped out our first move. Mark came home that evening, unsuspecting. He walked through the door with that stupid grin, that smug confidence, like the king of our house. "Hey, babe," he said. "How was your day?" I tilted my head, smiling sweetly. "Lovely. I went to the doctor. Everything is fine. But I also sent an email today to someone important. His face flickered, a micro-expression, fear, shock, both. I don't, what email? He stammered. I shrugged innocently. Oh, nothing. Just details about our finances and some texts you and Linda exchanged last night. The air changed. You could cut it with a knife. Mark's jaw tightened. You saw them. I nodded. I heard everything, midnight, the whole plan, don't worry, I'm not upset yet. He swallowed hard, eyes darting to the corners of the room like he was hunting for spies. I stood up, walked slowly toward him, smiling. Sweet, innocent, terrifying. Mark, do you know what it's like to trust someone completely, and then realize they've been planning your replacement? He shook his head, muttering, Sarah, I raised a finger, shushing him. No, you listen. You need to understand that I'm not the same woman you think I am. By morning, everything had changed. Mark stepped back. Sarah, what are you? I pressed a hand to my stomach. And there's someone very small counting on me, so every step you take now, you take very carefully. He stared at me, panic finally cracking his confidence. I smiled. Let's see how clever you really are. Mark's phone buzzed on the counter. I picked it up casually and read the latest message from Linda. I laughed softly. Oh, Mark, this is going to be fun. Linda's message was short. Did she suspect anything? I locked Mark's phone and placed it back on the counter like nothing had happened. Mark's eyes followed my hand. His throat moved when he swallowed. You shouldn't read my phone, he said weakly. I laughed, not loud, just enough to scare him. You planned another wife using that phone, I said. I think I earned one look. He tried to sit down, missed the chair, then sat properly like a man whose legs suddenly forgot their job. Sarah, you misunderstood, he started. It's not what you think. I folded my arms, then explain it slowly. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was just talking, he said. Linda talks big, you know how people joke. I leaned closer. People don't joke about handling their pregnant wife. His face drained of color. I enjoyed that part more than I should have. I never said that, he whispered. You didn't have to, I replied. You said enough. The room felt smaller. The walls seemed closer. I could hear the clock ticking like it was counting down his lies. Mark rubbed his face. Okay, fine, I messed up, but it's not serious. I raised an eyebrow. Another wife isn't serious. He stood up suddenly. You're blowing this out of proportion. There it was, anger, his favorite mask. I stayed calm. That scared him more. Sit down, I said. He didn't. I said sit down, I repeated. Something in my voice made him obey. I walked to the kitchen window and looked outside. Neighbors watering plants. Kids walking by with backpacks. Normal life. Inside my house, everything was burning. I called my sister today, I said without turning around. He stiffened. Why? I also called a lawyer. That was a lie. For now. Mark jumped up. You what? I turned slowly. Relax, I just wanted information. You're trying to ruin me, he snapped. I smiled softly. No, Mark, you already did that yourself, I'm just watching. His phone buzzed again. This time, he didn't reach for it. I did. Another message from Linda. I don't like this silence. Did something happen? I typed back. She knows everything. Mark lunged for the phone. I stepped back. What are you doing? He yelled. Talking to your future wife, I said. He froze. Don't. Oh, I will, I replied, because she deserves to know what kind of man you really are. I typed again. He promised me a lot of things too. Funny how promises work. I hit send. Mark's face twisted. You're crazy. No, I said. I'm awake. The phone buzzed immediately. Linda was calling. Mark stared at it like it was a bomb. Answer it, I said. No, he whispered. Answer it, I repeated louder. He shook his head. I answered it myself and put it on speaker. Mark, Linda's voice filled the kitchen. What's going on? I smiled into the phone. Hi, Linda, this is Sarah. Silence. Then, oh. Just that one small word, oh. I overheard your midnight plans, I continued calmly. Congratulations on the promotion from secret to disaster. Mark sank into the chair. Linda cleared her throat. Sarah, I didn't mean. You meant everything, I cut in. You just didn't mean for me to hear it. Linda sighed. Mark said you were asleep. I laughed. He says a lot of things. Another pause. Then Linda said, this isn't how it was supposed to happen. No, I agreed, but life rarely follows secret plans. She hung up. The silence afterward was loud. Mark looked broken, not sad, not sorry, broken because he lost control. I'll fix this, he said quietly. I'll make it right. I shook my head. You already chose your side. I went to the bedroom and locked the door behind me. I sat on the bed and placed both hands on my stomach. I've got you, I whispered to my baby, no matter what. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. This is Linda. We need to talk, woman to woman. I stared at the screen. Then I smiled. Because this was exactly where I wanted them. Both of them. Panicking. And I hadn't even started yet. I stared at Linda's message like it was a dare. Woman to woman, she said. Perfect, just perfect. I typed back. Sure, coffee tomorrow, 10 a.m. my place. I hit send, then I sat back and laughed quietly. Mark had no idea I'd invited the very person he was secretly obsessed with into our house, the same house he thought he controlled. The next morning, I woke up early, brewed the strongest coffee I could find, and laid out my best china. I wanted everything to look innocent, friendly, comfortable, the last thing he'd expect. Mark stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. Sarah, you're up early again. Yes, I said sweetly, pouring the coffee into mugs. I want to be ready for guests. His face went pale. Guests. I smiled. Yes, you know, for Linda. His knees nearly buckled. You invited her, here. Of course, I said, pretending to sip my coffee calmly. I thought it would be civil, woman to woman, right? He backed away, gripping the counter. Sarah, this isn't safe. You don't know her. I laughed softly. Oh, I know exactly who she is, and I know exactly what she wants. You should be more worried about what I want. He swallowed hard and stared at me like he'd finally met a stranger in his own home. The doorbell rang at exactly 9:58 a.m. I opened it to reveal Linda, perfectly dressed, wearing a confident smile that barely hid her nerves. Hi, Sarah, she said. Hi, Linda, I replied, smiling wider than ever. Come in, coffee's ready. She stepped inside, eyes flicking nervously toward Mark, who was frozen in the hallway like a deer in headlights. I gestured to the living room. Please sit, make yourself comfortable. Linda sat gingerly, clutching her purse. I poured her a cup of coffee and handed it to her. So Mark tells me you're a lovely woman, she said awkwardly, glancing at him. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, did he? Funny, I thought he was planning to add you to our family. Her eyes widened. What? Mark's face turned white. Sarah. No, I interrupted, smiling sweetly. Let me explain. Last night I overheard everything, every word, every plan, every lie. Linda froze. You heard. I did, I said. And now we get to talk, woman to woman. Mark backed toward the wall. I swear I could hear his heart pounding. Linda looked between us. I thought he said you didn't know. I know everything, I said calmly. And now the fun part begins. Her lips parted. Fun. I nodded. Yes, because Mark thought he could control both of us, that he could have secrets, that he could manipulate me. That ends today. She blinked, then slowly, like she was starting to understand, nodded. Mark finally spoke, voice trembling. Sarah, Linda, please. No, I said firmly. No more lies, no more secrets. You're going to sit there and listen while we talk. Linda sipped her coffee nervously, glancing at Mark, then back at me. You're serious, she whispered. Deadly serious, I replied. And by the end of this conversation, Mark will understand exactly who he's dealing with. I leaned forward, placing my hands on the table, smiling like a cat about to play with a mouse. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about taking back every ounce of control he thought he had. Mark's eyes darted between us, panic rising like smoke. He didn't know that the quiet, trusting wife he underestimated had already outmaneuvered him completely. Linda swallowed hard. Sarah, what are you going to do? I smiled. What we're going to do, together. Mark gasped. Together. I nodded slowly. Yes, and Mark, this is your warning. By the time we're done, you won't know which way is up, and you'll deserve every second of it. Mark sank into the couch, white as a sheet, muttering, You can't do this. I just smiled. Because the trap had been set. The players were on the board. And he was about to learn, painfully, that underestimating me had been his first, and worst, mistake. Mark sat frozen on the couch, his face pale, hands trembling. For the first time in years, he wasn't in control. He wasn't the one calling the shots. Linda and I exchanged a look across the table, a silent agreement. He had planned to manipulate both of us, but he hadn't counted on us teaming up. Not yet fully friends, not fully allies, but united in one purpose: to expose him for the liar he really was. I leaned back, taking a slow sip of my coffee. Mark, I said calmly, everything you thought you could get away with, it's over. For now. He opened his mouth, trying to argue, to bargain, to explain, but no words came out. I smiled at Linda. We'll handle the rest later, but trust me, by the time we're done, he won't know what hit him. Mark's panic was real. He realized, finally, that the quiet wife he underestimated had become a storm, and the first wave had already hit. I looked at my stomach, feeling the tiny life growing there. My baby and my own strength gave me courage. Everything I had planned, every secret I had uncovered, every step I was about to take, it was all for us. By morning, the game had changed. The pieces had moved. And one thing was certain: Mark would never, ever see the next move coming. Mark sat frozen on the couch, his eyes wide, his hands shaking as he realized he had been completely outmaneuvered. The smug confidence he carried for months had evaporated in a single morning. For the first time, he wasn't in control. He wasn't the one dictating the rules. He was just a man trapped in the consequences of his own lies. I leaned back, feeling the warmth of my growing baby inside me. Each heartbeat reminded me of why I had to be strong, why I could no longer trust a man who had planned to replace me. I looked at Mark, then at Linda, who seemed just as stunned as he was. There was tension in the room, thick and suffocating, but it was mine to wield. I hope you understand, I said calmly, my voice soft but deadly serious. Every plan you made in secret, every lie you told, has already been seen, and from now on, nothing will go unnoticed. Mark tried to speak. His mouth opened, words fumbling, stumbling, but no explanation could erase what had been revealed. He had been caught red-handed, and he knew it. The illusion of control he had enjoyed for years was gone. Linda glanced at him, unease flickering across her face. I didn't know it was like this, she whispered. No, I said softly. It's exactly like this, and now you both see the consequences of deception. I felt a surge of power, not cruel, not petty, but righteous. For months I had been blind to his schemes. For months I had trusted him blindly. Now the tables had turned. He was no longer the predator. I was. Mark's face drained of color as he slumped into the couch, realizing he was facing something far bigger than anger or punishment. He was facing the wrath of a woman he underestimated, a woman who had overheard everything, planned carefully, and would stop at nothing to protect herself and her child. I took a deep breath, my voice steady. This isn't over, not by a long shot, but consider this your first lesson. By the time you realize the game has changed, it will already be too late. Mark looked at me, terror and disbelief in his eyes. I smiled faintly, calm, collected, untouchable. He thought he knew me. He had no idea. I turned to Linda. You see, Mark wasn't just lying to me. He was lying to you too. Now we have a choice, how to handle the rest. Mark's panic was now total. He had lost his manipulative edge, lost his secrets, and lost the power he thought he held over both of us. And the real shock, he hadn't even seen the first moves of my plan yet. I placed my hands gently on my stomach. I whispered softly, more to myself than to them. We will protect our own. Nothing and no one will take this from us. By morning, the house felt different. The atmosphere had shifted. The lies had been exposed, the balance of power had changed, and one undeniable truth had emerged. Mark would never underestimate me again. And he would pay for every scheme, every betrayal, every plan he had thought would go unnoticed.